As some of you may recall, I have a class called Common Sense Printing. One of the slides represents artwork and the adage that garbage in, garbage out. The JPEG noise in the image is extreme, and we're going to remove that noise using AI to make a printable image. So what is JPEG noise in an image? I asked Perplexity AI, and the answer contained descriptions of JPEG noise as well as the most common types of JPEG noise, which is blockiness or checkerboarding, mosquito noise, color degradation, and blurring or loss of details. The mosquito noise is the halo that you see around the outside edge, and the blockiness is that chunky JPEG that you can see in these two images where it says before and after, kind of above the eyelid. On the image on the left, the circle, it's very obvious the JPEG noise. So there's a lot in this image. It's blurry, it has the mosquito lines, there's the blockiness. There's a lot to fix here, and it seems almost impossible. If someone supplies you an image like this and they have permission to print it, there are some things you can do. First, we're going to run through the basic adjustments for JPEG noise. That includes running median, the Gaussian blur, and going into lab. Lab allows you to adjust just the lightness channel. We're going to run the neural filter, JPEG Artifacts Removal. All of these steps are very small steps, and that's a key to removing any JPEG noise. So first we did median, then we did Gaussian blur. Now we're using JPEG Artifacts Removal in lab. And I added it as a layer mask so we can see exactly what it's trying to do, which is remove some of that chunky detailing. If this was an image with just some JPEG noise and not an extreme image like this, running these steps once or twice should be enough for you to print. It will descreen the image. You can use this on images that have been scanned from a print, images that have age damage, and things that have compression loss. Now that we're on the lightness channel, we're checking to see how far we've come. Reverting back to the old and coming back to the new. We're going to run a noise reduction. While this isn't exactly noise, by going into the advanced settings on lab, I'm able to affect the A and B channels of color and completely eliminate any of the squares or any of the extra noise. The lightness channel, not so much, but if I can remove it from the color, that isolates it to the grayscale. Now I want to extract the grayscale so that it's by itself and I can make some improvements just to it. On the A and B, I'm running the unsharp mask, and now my colors are done. Again with the unsharp mask because I don't want to lose the definition. Now that I have this image isolated and I've turned it into a grayscale, I'm going to save it as a PNG. I'm going into Ideogram. Ideogram is an AI tool. If you have a subscription, it allows you to upload images. One of the advantages of this is it replicates the image exactly as it sees it. So I will get an image that has the same shapes. Now I'm going to define that I want it to be very clear without noise. And this is what it gives back. I find the one that I like the most, I download that and take that into Photoshop. Now in Photoshop, you can see the new AI version versus the original. It's removed some of the noise that Photoshop wasn't able to. I apply the same steps to the new AI version, my unsharp mask. And I also go through and make sure that it blends into the background well because the aspect ratio was not exactly the same. So I'm giving it a soft erase around the edge. Essentially what we're doing is we're rebuilding the image step by step until we get something that looks good enough that we can feed through the AI If you just give the AI JPEG noise, it thinks it's an artistic choice, and it will give back JPEG noise. Now we're in the original file with the color. We're going to apply the new grayscale that we made from the AI tool, and you can see how much it removed. So this is where we are right now versus where we started. That's quite an improvement, but we have more to go. Now we have an image that has most of its JPEG noise removed, but it's still blurry and it still has spots. So we need to adjust our levels to get it back to a color saturation that we like. Now we're going to save it as a new version, PNG. Remember to be an RGB when you're saving PNG. So we go back to Ideogram, hit the little cloud to restart, add the image, and we're going to ask it to remix. We're going to use the advanced settings to make sure it gives back a high quality image, and we're going to put the image weight on 100% because we want to match what it has, but we're asking it to be clearly defined, sharpen, without noise. Now we're starting to get some better, more defined images. We could take it back into Photoshop and run through our steps, but instead, let's pick the best one and run it back through the AI. Now we've run it through the AI again. We have 4 new images, and we're kind of looking for the one that looks the most defined. I think I like this one the best. This one is missing the pomegranate in the center, which I noticed on the original. But I've taken it into Photoshop and I'm starting to use generative AI in Photoshop to remove any errors. Now we jump back to what our original looked like and where we are right now. It's a vast improvement, but there's still more to go. The next step is to remove some of the halos that it added because of the mosquito lines. It made them into an artistic choice because it sees them as a highlight. First, we're going to add a solid layer to sort of mute those lines. The trick with AI is to remove the things that you don't want it to see, and then it will improve the things that it does see. So by adding a solid fill layer, I'm muting that line, and that will help it make better choices. We're going to reduce the opacity slightly. And the goal here is just to help it along. Now we're going to generate a remove on that highlighted line, just selected around the pair. Now we're going to go back into lab and again, unsharp mask. But we want to make sure that we keep everything very well defined. We're going to check our neural filter to make sure there's no more noise removal, artifact removal that it can do. It's making things darker now, so I think that one has been exhausted. And now we're going to do some color adjustment. We want to brighten and add contrast. The next step is to run the masking. So we're going to run it mask all objects, and you'll see that it went through and masked each of the pieces of fruit and the bowl. And now we can make easier, quicker selections for our masks and help remove some of those mosquito lines that look like paint marks. I've selected just the area again around the pair, and I'm generating remove. Now that I've kind of evened the background, it will be easier for the AI to achieve that goal. This is looking a little better. It's not perfect, but it's getting better. Now we're going to try the mosquito line around the right side of the bowl. Again, I'm generating remove, and you can see the improvement. It's looking a lot better. Now, I'm going to go through and adjust the pomegranate. I want it to look more like a pomegranate. Right now, it sort of looks like an apple that's upside down. It's missing its stem. The JPEG noise image actually shows the stem. So I'm isolating it into its own PNG file to take into the AI to see if I could get a stem to generate directly onto this piece of fruit. But let's see how it does. And I'm going to save it as my pomegranate. I've loaded the image and I've changed the prompt. Instead of it saying a circular object, I add the word pomegranate with a stem. I've eliminated extra things that say it isn't a pomegranate, and I've set the generation to match at 90% because I do want it to add something that isn't there. So it needs to be flexible enough that it can, but rigid so that it won't make huge changes. And again, it's not really working. I'm getting an image of a pomegranate inside of that shape. Now I'm going to reduce the image influence a lot. And I got a good stem. It's not in the shape that I want, but it's certainly something I can add to my pomegranate. So I add it into my Photoshop file and I isolate the area of the stem that I want to add to my pomegranate. And now I can add this back to my original file. There it is. Now I can go through and make selections of each piece of fruit and do level and curve adjustments to make the colors more saturated, the depth more correct, the image more uniform. With the mask all objects, I'm able to do that individually. And again, you can use this method on images that you've scanned from prints to descreen them, damaged images, old compressed images, really anything. The AI helps when the issues become extreme. I'm just adjusting on each piece of fruit, the pears. I can adjust a little bit more yellow, a little bit more green into the yellow pears. If I see that the image needs more contrast, I usually apply curves. Now we're checking to see what those adjustments look like. And I've lightened all the fruit, but maintained a good value. I'm adding resolution, and then I'm going to run unsharp mask again on the lab. So here's your original. This is what we started with. And this is the final that we've adjusted using AI. Thanks so much, you guys.